So how is business reacting to the former president's incarceration? Zuma is the first former head of state to serve time in a democratic South Africa. Today is his first day of that 15-month sentence at the Estcourt correctional facility. Let's discuss the sector's reaction now with Busi Mavuso, who's the CEO of Business Leadership South Africa. She joins us now via Zoom. Thank you so much for making time, Ms. Mavuso. I know as business you don't normally want to get involved too much in politics, but this is about the rule of law. It's about our constitutional supremacy. What's your reaction as business?
You know, and thank you very much for the invitation, Clement. I think really gone are the days where the business of business is just going to be business. I don't know if we have that latitude in this country anymore. Because you see, the economic growth of any country, Clement, is constrained by its political economy. So business in this country doesn't have a choice but to actually get involved in the discussions around the political economy, because these decisions that are actually going to negatively impact us are going to be done with or without us. So I think the occurrence last night really sends a strong message that has been sent to the country, that even an immediate former head of state, you know, too, is bound by the rules of the country and is actually not beyond the law. You know, and I really think that we need to acknowledge the brilliant work that has been done by the civil society movements, such as the Defend Our Democracy campaign and others, standing up in standing up to the elements that were actually intent on destabilizing the state. So you see, what this says to us, and by this I mean having Mr. Zuma behind bars, what it says to us is that the rule of law, you know, cannot be undermined, and it should not be undermined. And if you seek to undermine it, then you are actually going to be decisively dealt with the way we have seen. And this is important because the rule of law is one of the bedrocks of the South African economy, and it is one we must defend with all our might. It is our judiciary, Clement, that continues to set South Africa apart from our African sister countries. It is one of the key reasons why South Africa is still deemed one of the most attractive investment destinations in the continent. And unfortunately, without it, the negative sentiment will heighten. And if the negative sentiment heightens, then that seriously undermines business confidence. And if business confidence is undermined, then we cannot have the infrastructure investment that we so much require. And without infrastructure investment, then unfortunately, the jobs crisis that we have in this country cannot be eradicated. So we're sitting in a country, Clement, where unemployment is sitting at 43%, you know, in terms of the expanded definition, where you have more people that are unemployed than those that are employed in all the provinces except Gauteng and the Western Cape. So if we are therefore going to allow a Mr. Zuma and company to actually undermine the rule of law, it says to investors, not just foreign direct investors, but to local investors as well, you know, does it make sense for me to invest my money in a country where they can't even actually ensure that they enforce a decision by the highest court of the land? So I think this actually speaks volumes, and I think it is actually very much welcomed by the business community.
Yeah, that's so significant, because when there's disregard of the rule of law, when governing elites are not held to account and they do not suffer the consequences of their actions, investors, as you say, generally have little faith that their investments will be honored. And that's why you said that is so important. How easy then do you think it's going to be for, let's speak in this context, the President Cyril Ramaphosa? He's been trying to get more investments in the country. Does it make it easy for him to go and say, we are a constitutional democracy, look at what we have done, how we have enforced the law, even to what others can argue is one of the most powerful politicians in the country?
It actually makes Cyril's job easy in as far as this is concerned, in as far as trying to build a strong investment case for South Africa is concerned. And you see, these things are incremental that have actually been happening in the country, that are actually sending very strong signals, for investment. I mean, we saw the 100 megawatts lifting of the license exemption. We saw the corporatization of the TNPA, as far as the ports are concerned. We saw the part privatization of the SAA. Now we are seeing a former head of state, behind bars. So this is historic, not just for South Africa, Clement, but for the continent. I don't know if any country in the continent can actually say that they've actually placed, a former sitting president actually behind bars. So this actually sent a strong message, to the investment community, that South Africa is actually taking the issue of reforms seriously. Because if you are reforming a country, we acknowledge that it's not an easy job, but it precisely means taking these difficult decisions that are actually not going to be supported by all, but that these are the decisions that are actually going to ensure that the environment within which business operates is a conducive environment. Why is that important? It is important, Clement, because if you are trying to solve for unemployment, inequality, and poverty, let's agree that those that can eradicate unemployment, it's not government. It is the private sector. Government only has to send the right signals through policy interventions and through reforms. And the private sector will therefore respond by therefore deploying their capital and ensuring that they actually invest in the country. And through investing, jobs are created. And if jobs are created, it also lessens the burden from the state. It lessens the burden from the fiscus. It makes the job of government easy in terms of the capital allocation and ensuring that they really focus on that they alone as the government can do. Because at the moment, we're sitting in a very tough situation where the finance minister, Tito Mboweni, has told us many times, or many a times, that we're actually nearing a situation where we are not going to be in a position to service our debt as a country. And we don't want to get there. And the only thing that will actually prevent South Africa from getting there is by actually building the business confidence so that investment can flow, so that government can therefore be given enough room and breathing space to can actually focus on the things that only they as government can focus on.
All right. Busi Mavuso, thank you so much for giving us reaction from the business community. She's the CEO at Business Leadership South Africa.